Hi everyone, welcome to Python. I think this is the fifth lecture. So today we're going to talk object-oriented programming. Maybe you can ask him while you are out to check. Can you just handle the camera, if you don't mind? All right. So object-oriented programming. Right. So everything is derived from object. Okay. First of all, let me ask, how many of you know object-oriented programming? That's the correct question. How many of you don't know what object-oriented programming? 1, 2, 3, few. There is a few. Okay. All right. So object-oriented programming usually is a little bit advanced. It comes after the basic knowledge of programming, but it's very important. It's very important to understand object-oriented programming. So when you talk about object-oriented programming, you talk about classes, right? Right, classes. So today we're going to learn how to create a class. All right. So have you worked with the classes before in this class, in this course?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Because when you deal, for example, with list, what is list?
It's a class.
It's a class.
Okay.
All right. Dictionary
Class.
is a class. All right. All right. So all the containers, these are classes, but these classes are built in. They are built in for you to use them. So the class is built of attributes. Okay, any class is built of attributes. Okay. And methods. What is methods? Functions. So attributes and functions. Like functions, right? Methods are functions to work on these attributes. All right? So every class in the system is derived from where? Every class derived from where? Which class? The object class. So object, kind of the mother class in Python, and everything is derived from the object class. From the object class, right? All right. So usually when you have a class, okay. So for example, if I need to have a class for grades. So let's say, okay, class or def class, okay, and this give it a name as grades. As grades, okay. That's a class. So it will have like attributes, for example, student name, let's call it name. Okay, student ID, that's attribute. And it will has methods. It has methods, for example, you could have def, cal, grades, or final grade, whatever. Okay, this is a method. So the class is kind of some unit of an object that defines some attributes and methods. All right. If I need to create, so this is kind of abstraction. If I need to create an object, again, what is object? When you issue an object, when you create an object, what do you do?
Creating an instance of a class.
You're creating what?
An instance of a class.
An instance of class means what physically?
You're you're accessing the methods and data that is stored within.
Physically, in terms of the machine, what does it mean? You are allocating memory for that object.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so you are allocating memory for that object. You're creating a memory, right? So now, did I create any memory in them? Did you take any memory for this class? No. The answer no. But if I create, for example, a new class object from this class, then I'm allocating a memory. All right. Alright, so what we're going to learn about, we're going to learn about the class, how to create a class, what are attributes, what are methods. Alright, various methods should be there, like constructor and destructor. So constructor, destructor, and there's other methods that you need to use for your logic. Alright. So when you have a big project, okay, what you have to do? You have to divide it into multiple classes. You could keep each class in one file, and this file will be called module. Then you call all the modules from the main file, which has the main function. All right. So let's take a few examples, explain what happens, and as we move, we'll see what we do. It will be, for those who did object-oriented programming before, it will be very easy. But for those, all right, how to define and use your own classes. All right. So what we see in here, okay, we see, let me take the pen here, and then, okay, so in here, a diagram for a class, for example, a product, we call it a product, all right? So when you talk about a product, what attributes a product could have? It will have the name, so what's the name of the product, right? And the price, and the discount percentage. You have a store, you're going to create a class of product. The product has how many attributes? Okay, this is a product. What are the attributes for this product? Okay, what are the attributes for this product? Product name, microphone. Price, $200. And discount, how much discount if I need to buy it now. This is attributes, right? All right. And then I will have, so I have, how many attributes I have in here? 3. All right? When you create your project, you could have 200 attributes, no problem. Or 100 or 50. All right. So when you talk about the name, usually what type of the name? What type of variable is this?
String.
String. How about price?
Float or int.
Decimal, for example. Okay, discount percentage.
Float.
Will be float or percentage, right? Okay. What are the functions we have? The first function, which is start with underscore init, then underscore. That's how it's written. What is this? This is the constructor. How you build the class. Okay. So what are the values? So it's a method. This is a constructor method. So how many parameters we are passing for it? 3. The name, the price, and the discount. Then we have a second method called getDiscountAmount. So how much is discount amount in terms of dollars? All right? And this method is a function. And then we have getDiscountPrice. Get the discount price. So in this class, how many attributes I have? 3. How many functions or how many methods I have?
2 functions.
2 functions or 3?
2 functions.
3. Because we have the first one, the constructor is a method. All right, then we have getDiscount, which is a method, and getDiscountPrice is a method. So that's a simple, very simple class. It has 3 methods, and it has 3 attributes. Why the first method is different? Why is it different? That's how it's written. This is like a special method to construct the object. All right. So now the class by itself is an abstraction. When you create a class, you don't do anything with the memory. All right. But when you start creating the products, when you're creating the object, that's where you are taking the memory. So product. This is a product, this is the class. You could create a product 1, and you could create product 2, and a product 3, and product 100. All right? And all of them will have attributes. So the name, for example, in here, Stanley 13, whatever. The price is $12.99. The discount percentage is 62%. The second product in here, as you see it in here, the second product. The name is National Hardware, 3/4 inch wire nails. The price is $5.06
$5.06, and the discount percentage is 0%. So we created two products, all right? So product one will consume a memory because we are creating it. Product two is also another object that will consume memory. So what is a product one and product two? What's the difference between a product in here with a capital P and a product one here? The first one is a blueprint. A blueprint. The second one is the actual product. All right? What's the difference between a map for a house and the real house? Map of the house is a class. It's not existing. It's like an idea. And the house itself, which is built according to this map, okay, drawing. I mean, I think the map, the drawing, you know, with the blueprint. So we have a house blueprint, okay, it's a paper. It does not exist. All right? When you build a house according to this blueprint, then this is what? An object. It becomes an object. Clear? What's the difference between a class and the object? So, class is a blueprint. Object is actual product. Built according to this blueprint. Cannot be any simple than this. Alright? Alright. So UML is a way for describing the product. So in here, for example, if you look in here, the product, the class, and module names. So for example, the way you create it, you start with the class. There is no diff, by the way. Class, then the name of the class, product. Usually we give it like a bigger font, a bigger uppercase with P, for example, which is product, right? And column. So that's how we create the class. Simple? Then after that, the class, inside the class we have to define the attributes and methods. Attributes and methods. So the first method always we have to define is the constructor. And constructor is a function or a method, underscore init, and int with underscore init twice. Then every function, every method inside the class, the first element has to be self. For now, do it like this. It has to be self. Then comma, the name, the price, the discount percentage. So how many parameters it has in here, this class? 3. And the first one always self. The first one is always self. So 3. So what we are saying self.name. So this class and the attribute name, give it what? Give it the value of? Give it the value of what? Of the name. So the name passed to the class will go where? To this name. And the price will go to the price in here. And the discount percentage will go to here. Will go to here. Alright? So that's how we create. So that's what is constructor. This is a constructor. Alright? Then after that we have 2 more methods. The first method is get, this one in here, get discount amount. And what we gonna pass to it? How many parameters? 0. But always we have to pass self to the methods inside the class. So we say self. Then what we did, what we need to calculate, we need to calculate the discount amount. So what's the discount amount in here? The price multiplied by the discount percentage divided by 100. This will give us the discount amount. How much discount amount? So if the price is $100 and the discount amount is 6%, so how much is the discount amount? $6. $6, right? Then in here what we have, get discount price. We need to know the price. We need the price, okay? So how much is the discount price? It will be the price minus the amount we discounted. In our example, the price is $100. And the discount value was $6. How much is the total amount? How much is the discount price? $94, $94, and so on and so forth. All right? I'm trying to go slowly for those who don't know object-oriented programming. Okay? If it's confusing, you could ask, but it's gonna take you a while to understand it. It's gonna take you like a couple of hours to understand when you go home. So what we did in here in this page, what we did, we have created a class. Okay, this class has how many attributes? Three. What are the attributes?
Name, price, and discount function.
Excellent. How many functions? How many methods we have?
Three functions.
One of them is constructor.
Constructor.
One of them constructor. All right. Simplistic class. You cannot find any. Okay. From this class, how many objects they can create?
N number.
Any number you want. Just what limits you is the size of the memory of your computer, right? So you could call it nail, you could call it car, you could call it TV, you could call it a projector, you could call it camcorder. You give it any name, any product, okay? And each product has 3 attributes, and you could use 3 methods on them. So a script that creates and uses a product object. So now we're going to create an object. We're going to learn how to create an object. So what is the first thing I have to do? I have from objects import product. What is a product? It's a class that I just created, right? It's the class that I just have created, right? It's the class that so I have to import it first, all right? Then create 2 products objects. So how can I create 2 product objects? Product 1, I call it, equals to product, and then I pass the parameters to it. So for example, all right, we have agreed, for example, we have agreed that list is what? An object, is a class, right? So if I need to create a list, how can I create a list? I give it a name, okay, call it Shakur. That's the name of the list, all right? Equals, so what is this? I'm creating an object of a list, all right? I have a class called I call product. If I need to create an object of the product, how can I create it?
Give it a name, product.
Product, okay, product, and then the parameters that they have to pass. The parameter, so there's the name, okay, the name, what we said also, the name, the price, okay, the price, whatever, $12.99, and then the discount rate, 60%, for example. Okay, the name AA for whatever. Right, that's how it's created. So in here, what I did, I created an object of the class. In here, what I did, create an object of list. Object of a list. I can create an object of a dictionary. I could create an object of tuple. I could create an object of string. All of these are classes, but in the previous classes we used them right away. Why? Because the classes are written for us. They are built in. They are in the system. All right? We're done. We're going to use them forever. Now we're going to create our own classes. We're going to create our own classes that we could use for in the future. All right? So what we did in here, if you look in here, print, as you see in here. All right? Okay. How many objects I have created? 2. The first one is product 1. The second one is product 2. And how can I create it? Okay, by calling the class. I call the class with the product, and then I pass the 3 parameters. What are the 3 parameters? The name, and the price, and the discount rate. All right? Now I have created them in the memory, yes.
So how we can save that product, the main class? You write down from objects import product. How we can save that product?
Is that a separate Python file of that class?
Well, I mean, if you keep the product in a separate file, you need to call it to this file.
Yeah, so we have to create a separate file?
Separate file, okay?
And save it.
And save it, and then you import it. So from objects. So objects is the name of the file. So that's a good question. So the name of the file where we kept the first one is objects.python. All right? And object.python, what we had inside it? A class product. Now I am in different file. Okay, how can I tell the file where can I get the product? I have to call it. I have to import the module. So what I do? From objects, which is object.python, okay, import the product. That's what we did. Okay? All right. So in here, after I created two objects. Okay? I have created the two objects. Then after that, what I'm doing in here, we have, as you see in here, print. In here, a print product data, a text product data, all right, which came in here, appeared in here. Then a print name colon space, which is in here. Okay, all right, and then I'm using the format construct. So I have to substitute a thing in here. I'm putting a string. Where I'm getting the string from product1.name. From product1.name. Or if I type, for example, product, let me say print, okay, print product dot product1, okay, dot name. What it will print? It will print a product name.
So is that a method? So is that a method that is like inherent to whenever you create a class, or is that just calling the variable?
I'm calling the variable, I'm printing the variable,
Okay.
which is attributes.
But like you don't need a, but there's no method, like you don't need to do like a get method or anything like that.
Getters and setters, we'll talk about them in a second.
Okay.
Okay, that's getters and setters. We use them when we do private. There's a public attributes and private attributes. We'll talk about them in a second, but that's the simplest format. So in here, what I'm saying, product1.name, print it. Okay, and then after that, the second one, print the price, and what I'm printing, product1.price. Then after that, the discounted percentage. For that, what I did, I called the method. I called the method. So if you look in here, so there is a method that we have created called discount %. So it will calculate the discount %. And for the price, what I have called a method called get discount price, which was presented here. This is the first method, and this is the second method, right? So calling this or executing this will give me what? Will give me the first thing I printed, which is the product data, as you see in here, product data. Then the name, then the price, then the discount %, then the discount amount, then the discount price, then the discount price. We went through this print list. All right. So in summary, what we are doing in here, two things. We create a class. Class is a blueprint. Our blueprint for this example has 3 attributes: name, price, and percentage, and has 3 functions. So basically in here, I called all the 3. What are the 3 functions I called or methods? The first one is the constructor. So constructor was called in here in this area when I constructed the object. Then after that, I used the 2 functions in this area. Use the 2 functions in this area. All right. So that's what it is. What it is building some abstraction or some system that has different kind of variables, and you make it one unit, called a class. And when you instantiate it, that's creating an object. Clear? Please do ask. I'm trying to go as slow as I can. Okay. So how to import a class? So we already saw from objects, import product. What is objects? It's a file called objects.python.py, and it has a class. If I need to use it from anywhere, just you have to import it. And that's what we do, by the way. I mean, we use Python for many applications. There's many applications that comes with the classes, that you could download the classes, and to use the class, what you have to do? You have to import it, right? That's what you do. Math, for example. What is math? It's a module, it's a class, right? We import it, and then what we are using there? You are using the methods. Same thing, you're creating now a class by yourself, and what you have to do, you have to import it, and then use the methods come with it, all right? So, how to create an object? We already have we have seen that. So, for product one, it's the name of the object, and then you call it by calling the name of the product, and you give it the parameters, okay, according to the constructor. We'll talk about constructors in a second, how they work, and what are different.
Is the
So-
order important, Professor? The order in which you are sending the name,
The order, I mean, the order in here is very important, okay? The order here is very important, okay? But there is a situation that you don't have to have the order if you include the attribute itself. So if, for example, if you say product, for example, product, okay, let's say product under 10 equals product, okay? And if you say name equals, okay, price equals, you put the names, right? And for example, percentage equals, okay, you don't have to put them in order. We already covered that last class, right, in the functions. So if you don't include the attribute name, okay, it has to be in order. Otherwise, you could include the attribute name and add them, all right? So how to access the attribute for an object? Very simple. So for example, in here, what I'm doing in here, read at this. So product one, which is an object, dot discount percentage equals 40. So what I'm doing in here, I'm setting the attribute, okay? When I created it, it was how much?
62.
It was 62. So what I'm doing in here, I'm changing it to 40 percentage. What I'm doing in here, product one dot discount percentage. What I'm doing, I'm reading it and saving it to a value. So for the attributes, I could set them. Set them means change a value, and I could read them. Okay, for whatever I want. Okay. So how to call a method of an object? So again, when you have a class, it has attributes and will have methods. Why we write the methods? To call them. Why we call them? Are you with me, guys?
Yes.
Why we call a function or a method?
To perform a certain task.
To perform a certain task. Okay? If you are calling a method of a class, so what I'm trying to do, perform a certain task on what? An object instantiated from that class. Clear? So for example, in here you have get discount amount. Alright? So to call it, I call the object a product one dot get discount amount, and I'm saving it to a variable called discount. So if the discount amount is the discount rate is like let's say 60%, right? And the price is $100. So how much will be the discount amount? 60 times $100 would be $60. That will be saved in the discount. Then you could calculate the discount price. How you calculate the discount price? Price minus how much you discounted. That will be the real price. All right. Each class has to have a constructor. Each class has to have a constructor. In Java and C++ written differently, in here, to write a constructor, we start with underscore underscore. And init always has to have init, which is init, then underscore underscore. And the first parameter has to be the self. So always has to be self, and then the other parameters. And then inside the body of the method or the constructor, we assign values to these parameters. Maybe example will explain it. So diff init, and we pass self. So what we did in here, what we said, when we construct the object, the name will be a null string. There is no name. And the price will be $0. And the discount will be 0. Will be 0. So for example, if I type like this, if I create a product, I say product, okay, let's say product, let me call it, for example, XYZ, okay, product XYZ. I'm creating a product, okay, which is XY, okay, or like this. So let's call it XYZ equals product. Okay. So I'm creating a class, an object called XYZ, and they did not pass parameters in here. So it's gonna go to the default. What are the default values? No name, 0, and 0. If I need to give it a value, all I have to say, for example, product, okay, whatever, 90, for example, and then the percentage 60, all right? So when you create, you could create an empty that takes the default values, or you could assign a value. So when you look in here, let me clear this little bit, look at the product one. When you're creating the product one, what you are doing, you are assigning values for the name, and you are assigning a value for the price, and assigning value for the percent. If you don't put anything inside the parentheses, then you're assigning the default values. All right, so that's a constructor in here. These are the default values, which is no name, 0 price, and 0%, and 0%. All right, so this is in here. When you create the product, we call it the class product. All right. So you always can set the attributes. You could change them after you do the initiation. That means changing the values. So for example, in here, what we did, okay, for the product, in here, we changed the name from nothing to Stanley 13 ounce wood hammer, I think, and then the price to $12.99, and we changed the discount percentage to 62. We changed discount percentage to 62.
Professor,
Yes.
why the constructor is in it? I mean, in any of the language, usually the constructor name would be the same name of the class.
Yeah.
So is there any special meaning that we use as only in it?
Yeah,
As constructor?
I mean, I know in C++, Java, it will be the same name of the class. In here, they use underscore init, okay, and for any class you create. And the reason for that, this init it's available even in the parent class. So each class is derived from where? From the object, all right? So the init is in the object. So when you create a new class, derived from the basic class object, you are overriding these classes, the constructor class. All right? So for you, just to make it simple, always, when you create a class, you have to create a constructor. And to create the constructor, you name it init. That's it. So any constructor in Python, very simple. Underscore, init, whatever. All right? So here a question in Java and like C++, the constructor usually takes the name of the class. In Python, no. That's how it is. All right? So let's take it like a rule. That's how we do it. That's how we do it.
Whenever I want, I could use the constructor. If I don't want to use the constructor, I couldn't. I mean, is that mandate that I need to use constructor?
It will be inherited from the object class.
Okay, for sure, whenever I create a class, I need to use constructor.
Yes.
Is that mandatory? I need to use a constructor?
Yes.
I couldn't write a class without a constructor.
I don't think so. All right? I do not serve your purpose because you have to initialize the values anyways. And as I told you, if you don't write your init, it will be inherited from the object class. We'll show you that in a second. So let's take it like that. I mean, so far without going through details, you create a class for our work in here. If you create a class, okay, what you have to give the class? A name, all right?
Parameters.
Attributes, at least one method, which is the constructor. All right? All right? And where is it derived from? By default, derived from where? From the object class. So for example, in our class here, for example, we say the class product. Okay? And we put it like this, and column. Where is it derived from? From object. You could put it in here. Or you could keep it out. It will be understood. All right? So in here we have a product. So what is this? Parent class. And this child class. So this inherited from this. Right? Let's say, okay, I want to create a subclass called hardware. So class hardware. And I need it to be subclass of the product. So I have to put in here product. So this is the subclass. This is the parent class.
What do you mean by subclass? All the parameters would be taken from that class?
Yes, and you could add more parameters to it.
Okay.
So we'll go over it. In here, what is the main class?
Product.
What's the child class is a product. What is the father class is object. The main class, the subclass. The basic class, the subclass. The parent, the child. Parent, child. Basic class, subclass. Okay, call it whatever you want, all right? In here, do you have to include the object? You don't. Okay, but we know it's associated from the object. Okay, clear? Who asked the question? You? Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Initially, if you're new to the language, just use the normal ways of using it. All right, and then after that, so in here, what we do, this is the constructor, right? In it, always the methods. Don't ask me why. That's how the language. The methods. Inside the class, the first parameter is always what? Self. It has to call itself. Self. Maybe in Java and C# what they call it? Java. This maybe? Have you heard about this?
Yes.
Right? All right, self in here. Self. Oh, don't forget that. Within the class, always the first parameter in the methods has to be self. Has to be self.
That's just a name, right? You can put it whatever you want, or does it have to be, is like self a reserved word?
Self means the same class. So you could remove the self and you put the name of the class.
Okay, got it.
Self.
No, yeah. So that could be, I could change that to this if I wanted to.
You cannot use this in this programming. You have to use self or the name of the class.
Okay, one or the other.
Yes. So product. You could use a product
Got it.
or self. Nobody put the name of the class. Everybody puts the self. It's me. Where is the class is coming from?
So,
The method is running inside the class. So kind of saying, it's self, it's me. All right?
got it.
All right, so always start with self. All right? And then you have the parameters, the 3 parameters in here. Then again, any parameter you access within the class always start with self. Self.name, self.price, self.whatever. Okay? So what we are saying that when you pass the parameters, okay, so listen, when you call the constructor, the name was A, for example, and the price was 9, and the discount rate was 60. So the values will be passed to the attributes. Okay, so the name, which is A, will be passed to self-name. The 9, which is the price, will be passed to self-price. The 60, which is the discount percent, it will be passed to the self-price, and so on and so forth. All right? So in here, for example, when you call this, all right, so the first parameter is the name, which is Stanley 13-ounce wood hammer. This will go where?
In the name.
To the name here. And then $12.99 will go where? To the price. And then, the discount, okay, it's used, in here, you did not ask for the discount, but, it could be initiated also. All right? So discount to price equals discount to price, 62, goes to here and will be substituted there.
Professor, can the name be different? Self.name is equal to something else? Or
Can you what?
Self.name equals to name. Can the name be different? Like, can I put anything instead of name? Or it has to be name only?
No, it could be anything. This is the name of it's a variable. You create whatever you want. So you could call it last name. Instead of name, you could LN. Last name. Okay, this is your choice. So here's the question, is the name, the price, the discount price. Okay, that's of your own choice. That's the name of the variable you give. So you can give it anything. All right? But self, you cannot use this. If you don't like the word self, you have to put the name of the class. Simple. All right? Okay. All right. So in here, for example, when you look in here, we did the constructor. So init, as you see in here, self. Okay. So init, you have self. As usual, the name equals nothing, price is 0, and the percent is 0. All right. So the nothing in here, the 0 string, the nothing string will be passed in here, the 0 will be passed in here, and the percent will be passed in here. Then you could apply the self discount percent, it will be passed in here. All right. So this is a code for some that supplies 3 parameters. You have 3 parameters. All right. If you don't include the parameter, it's gonna go to the default. So this kind of the default. So what's the default for the price? For example, 0. What's the default for percent? 0. If you don't supply them in here, it will go for the parameter. So for example, in here, what is missing in the last one in here? What's missing?
Percentage.
The percentage. So what is the value of percentage?
60.
What's the default value? What's
0.
The default value? 0. Okay?
If I don't define a default constructor, do we have an inbuilt default constructor?
If you don't define, if you don't put like a defaults in here. All right. As far as I know, you have to include it. You have to include all the parameters. All right. So in here, we define how we define a method. It's a def. Okay. It has a name. And the most important thing, the first parameter has to be self. And then after that, you could pass any parameter or no parameters. It's optional. So for example, look at the first one in here. You define get discount amount. Get discount amount. And usually it's like written like a camel notation. Get discount amount. All right. So what is the only parameter I'm passing in here? The self. Always has to, you have to pass self. So the discount amount, which is the variable, equals self multiplied, self price multiplied by self discount price, divided by 100. So if I have the price is $100, this is the price $100, and the discount percentage is 60. So you divide it by 100, it will be 0.6, and then you know the discount amount will be 0.6 times 100, which is $60. And then you return the discount amount that you have calculated. So the way you call it, for example, the product, you always start with the product, then they get the method, and you save it somewhere in here. All right. So it's clear what we are doing in here. That in each class, we're creating attributes, it has a values, and there is certain operations that we do with the program. All right. So a method that calls another method of a class. So you have a method in the class. You have multiple methods. Let's say you have 3 methods in our example. Can a method call another method from the class? Of course. All right. So in here, for example, there's a method. Okay, in here, get discount price, and you pass self to it. But within the method, what I'm doing, I'm calling another method, which is get discount amount. Get discount amount. All right. So I could call methods within the class. Methods within the class. Okay, there's no problem. All right. Clear so far? Okay, a method of the product class that accepts a parameter. A method of a product class that accepts a parameter. So in here, for example, you're defining get price string. Get price string. The price is float. I need to convert this float number to a string. So I created what? A method for it. What you have to pass? Country. Country. Why I need the country with the price? What is the relation between country and the price?
Currency.
Currency. dollar sign, pound sign. You know what is the sign that you're gonna use. So price string, okay, equals, and I'm using the format. This is the format. Self.price. Self.price usually in float, right? If the country US, then price string, and you add to it USD. If the country is DET, stands for what? Dutch or whatever. Dutch, okay? Or, I'm not sure what D Dutch maybe. Okay, then I will add the EUR for it, European whatever currency to it. All right? So, in this example, and that's the whole idea, in this example, what we did, we created a method. The method has how many parameters to pass to it? One parameter. One parameter, which is the country. All right? This is country. All right. In here it will give me an error. When I use it this way, it will give me error. Why? Because when I created the method, it has to have at least one parameter. That's your question, right? And I did not put a default. Okay, if I put country, equals UK, for example. The country equals UK, for example. So if I run it in here, it will work because there's a default. If I don't put a default, then I have to pass a value. So it will give you time error, get price string, take one positional argument, but two were given. So this is application written for you. Try it. Okay. The same thing. So we have a program that it will give you the product. We have 3 products in here, 3 products only. Then enter the product number. So for example, you enter 1 in here. Then it will tell you the details. So what is the name, what is the price, what is the discount percentage, what is the amount, and what's the price. And if you need to view another, you view the other one. So if we take a look, let's take a look. Okay, so in here we have 2 files. Okay, the first one is object. Let's take a look at the object. So in the object, what I have in here, in the object, I have only the class. Nothing inside this file. Okay, so class, I have product. Can you see?
No.
Oh. Right in here. Sorry about that. So in here, this is the file called the product. It has only the class, right? It's like a module. It has how many class in here? It has product class. Okay, the product class, it has the constructor. It has another function called get discount amount, another function called get discount price, and the other function that converts to string, convert value to string, right? And then another class called line item. It has 2 functions, the initiation, then the constructor, and it has the other one going total. So now if I need to run the code from the product viewer, that's where the main file is, what I have to do, the first thing I have to import it. So from objects, import product. What is objects? It's my file called objects.py. I have to import product from it. Then after that, I have the class as part of this program. So when you execute this, where it goes first? When you execute the program, where it goes? So what does it have? It has a function, 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 right? The main function. Where it starts? It goes to the end. It goes in here. If name equals main, then run main. The first thing will be run is main. So what is the first line of the main? Product viewer program, print a new line in here. Then after that, we create a tuple for the products, the 3 products. In the previous class, we learned how to call it from a file, right? Or a database, right? So in the previous class, we learned how to save it in a file, read it from a file. In the future class, we're going to learn how to save it into database and read it from a database, right? Then after that, show product, and you pass the products. Where is the products? This is. So this one will be passed to here. And then we'll call off a method called show products. So let's go look for show products. Here's the show products. All right? So it will print product data, then the name, then the price, discount percent, discount amount, discount price, and then it has a new line. Then after that, after it's finished there, it's gonna go to the while loop. So it will ask you to enter product name number. What are the numbers? Product 1 or 2 or 3. Then after that, we'll ask you, okay, you know, the products, it will save it in a variable called the product, and then it tells you show the product, show the product. Then after that, after it goes to the show product in here, it comes back in here and asks you your input view another product. If you say yes, it's gonna go to the loop again and print. Otherwise, we'll go on. Let's execute it. Let's run it. So the product viewer program, product. So it will ask you to choose which product you want. Let's say I want a product number 2. Enter. And display the data for you. The name, calculating the price, the discount percentage, discount amount, the discount, and then ask you, do you need another product? Say yes. Okay, this time I will enter product number 1, and so on and so forth. Right? Right. So what we did in here, we have created a very simple class, okay, for product. The product has how many attributes? 3 attributes and 3 functions. It cannot be any simpler than this. Yes.
So, could you please edit the code for me, Professor, without giving any arguments inside the product, so that it calls the default one?
You mean in here?
No, in the code.
In the code in here? In here, right?
Here.
So what do you want to do?
You have given arguments in the product plane.
So, well, this is the class I want to talk about. It should be this one in here, right?
Yeah.
Because we call it from here, right?
In products is equals to, you have given arguments inside the product. So I don't want you to give arguments in one of the product.
So you remove this.
Yes. So
Okay.
that it calls the default one, default constructor.
Like this. Okay, one.
So it should actually take the values from the default constructor.
Exactly.
Right? So could you print that default value? I mean, is that possible?
It's already here. It's one. You have to choose one, for example. That's the default value.
Thanks.
Did you understand her question?
No.
She said, "What if I create an object without parameters, without values? Where the values come from?
Self.
Comes from the default values, and that's what we did. All right. All right. So let's have a break for 10 minutes. Come back. Continue. We take another example. So far what we have learned, just want to make sure we understand what we are doing here. All right. So we started talking about, just summarize what we have learned in the first lecture. Okay. So we're talking about object-oriented programming. So what does it mean, object-oriented programming? That we are dealing with objects. The whole components are objects, right? So we started dealing with objects a long time ago. So we give example like the list. It's an object. So when I say, for example, my underscore list equals, all right, list of 1, 2, 3, 4. What is this? This is an object. What is this object? It's a list. So there is a class. There is a module called a list. All right? And there is many methods come with a list. Like append, for example, pop, etc. These are methods. These are methods coming with that class, and it will help us with deal with the object, right? So far, before this is a class, we were dealing with objects anywhere, everywhere. Okay? Now we have to create our own classes. So what we are trying to do to create a class. A class is a way to group attributes for one thing together. So for example, you could have, for example, a class for a shape. Okay, shape. Class for a shape. So when you look at the shape, what are the parameters for any shape you can think of?
2 points, x1, x2, y1, y2.
Sides, the number of sides. How many sides? Right? Okay, so when you look at the square or triangle, okay, or whatever, rectangle, right? So what are the shapes? What are the elements you have with that shape?
Area.
Okay, sides, okay, the angles, what kind of angles you have? Okay, what kind of angles? All right, area, is it a parameter? Is it an attribute? Areas.
That could be a method.
You could create a method for that, right? You could create a method to calculate the area. And there is methods, right? So there is method 1, for example, fun1, function 2, whatever you call it, okay? And this is what you call this is a class, attributes and functions. So you try to have a story where you can have something to describe within a class, to create a class first. All right? Okay? So one of the functions that we have learned, it will be the constructor. It will be the constructor. Okay? A constructor helps us to instantiate the objects of the class. Right? That's what it is, right? The constructor. Okay? And so on and so forth. So that's what is a class. That's what is class. Okay? So remember the example of like having dice, right? Okay, so you know what's a die, right? Right? So let's say that you have multiple dice that you need to roll at the same time. So what you created, like a dice, which has a list of dice. The die is 1. When you roll it, it will give you a number from 1 to 6. What if you have 3 dice and you roll them together? So it will have a list of dice, okay? For the die, what you do? You roll, right? You roll and you'll get a value. When you roll, you get a value. You don't have a die, but when you roll, you could get 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 6. This is the value. So each die. You have a dice, it has a list of dice, and you could add a die. You could add a die to the dice, and you could roll all of them. You could roll all of them. So you could have like 5, 6, 7, whatever. All right. So the dice module, as you see in here, the dice module, okay, which is in here, the dice module, it has a list of dice, and you could add a die, and you could also roll them all. So look at it in here. So the product, so here. For a reason, my PowerPoint slide not in order. I'm not sure why. Anyways. So for the dice module in here, okay, the class you have die, and in the die, when you have a die, what are the parameters you have? What's the value? Right? What's the value? So the value by default goes to 1. All right? And what you do with the die? What is the function you're going to do with the die? Roll. So you have a function called roll, and when you roll it, okay, how you roll a die? How you roll it? In real life, how you roll it? Throw it.
Yeah.
In computer, how you roll it?
Pick a random number.
Random number from 1 to 6.
Yeah.
So what you do in here, you're calling the random and run range from 1 to 7. 1 to 7, why 1 to 7?
Because it doesn't.
Because it goes to 6, right? It goes to 6. That's it. So you have a die. The die has a value and a function. What is the function? So roll it. How you can roll it? With a random value. As simple as this. Can't be any simpler than that, right? Then you have another class for dice. Dice is what? A group of dice. Dice with D-I-C-E is a group of dice. So you could have like multiple dice. You have multiple dice that you could roll. You could have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So what are the parameters in dice? What are the parameters? A list. At the beginning is an empty list. Empty list, right? Empty list. Then what you do? You could add a die. The first die, the second die, third die. So what are the functions we need for dice? I need to add die. Okay. So let me cause in English dice. So you'll have a die. What does it have? Value and roll. Right? I wish I brought one with me. It has a value and roll. What is the default value? 1. That's what we gave it. When I roll it, what I have to do? I have to roll it, right? So what we call this? A die. Let's give it like this. And there's a dice. Another class. So the dice built of how many? It built of many dice. So it could be built of 5. 5. Or 4. Right? So what is inside in here? Again, value and roll. Value and roll. Value, roll. Value, roll. What are the attributes of here, of the dice? A list of dice. So dice is an object built of smaller objects. What are the smaller objects? Die. What are the methods they could apply for this dice? Roll, all. Right? That's a function. If I have a dice, roll all, right? Small object I'm creating, class for small object. Then I'm building a bigger object built of smaller objects. Clear?
Yeah.
Clear? Okay? So, 2 classes. We're creating how many classes you see in here? 2 classes. What is the first class? Die. This one. By the way, a class always good to start with a capital. Alright? And the second, dies, in here. Alright. So let's take a look at the die in there. Class die. So, the constructor, what I do with the constructor usually? I initiate the parameters, the values, the attributes. Alright? So when you look in here, def, init, self, the value equals 1. So by default, when you start, always the value is 1. If you don't roll it, what is the value? 1. So what is the value here by default? 1.
1.
What are the functions I could apply on this die? Roll. Anything else I can? Could I say eat it? Could I tell the die to walk, run, dance? The only thing I could do with it, roll. Okay, how can I roll it? With a random from 1 to 6. Easy? Easy. One function, one value. Then there is a bigger thing is
Dice.
dice. The dice is built of what? A list. Built of list. It could be a list of strings, list of names, list of floats, list of dictionaries, list of anything. Okay, list of objects. So it's now a list of what? Of dice. List of dice. Okay. There's 2 functions. What is the initial value of the list? Empty. So when I have empty list, one of the functions always I have to have is what? Adding dice to it. So what is the first function I have in here? Add a die. Alright? So what are I'm adding to it? Die. Die. Right?
Is die a variable right now in that one? Is that a variable? Self comma die? What?
Initially it's 0, has no dice.
Yeah, so it's not
Now,
defined, right?
when I need to add a die to it, in here how many die I have?
4.
4. Initially how much I have? 0. So to have 4 here, what I have to do? I have to run this function how many times? 4 times. If I run it for 4 times, I'm adding every time a die to the list. Right? Then after that, what I'm doing in here?
Okay.
Adding a die. So how I'm doing it? It's a list. Or I have to use the function append the die.
No, my question is, what is die exactly in this? Is a variable value because it's not defined neither up or down, right?
Die is an object. It's in here. It's defined. It's in here.
But that's small, d small, and that's capital. Does that like
That's
make?
the name. That's the name of the class. That's the name of the class. And then here, when I die, when I call it, I have to pass to here an object of this die.
So is this like creating an object? Because the way you create an object, you said first die equals to capital
You
DIE.
have to create the object first, and then you have to pass it to dice.
Okay.
So what you're gonna have this is an object of a die.
So this doesn't run without a driver, right?
Yes.
So you need a whole separate program.
Of course, you can have
For
this is-
die.
Again, this is abstract. This is a class.
Just define.
So you have to create first a die as an object. Then what you're gonna pass in here?
Object.
A die object to it. And what you're gonna do? You're gonna add it to where?
The list.
To the list. All right. And then after that, what you do? Roll all. So let's say I added 4 dice. What I have to do? Roll them all. Okay? How can I roll them all?
For loop.
Create loop for die in the list. So you have die 1, die 2, 1, 2, 3. I have to call what? The roll. Where's the roll is called from? From here.
So we can call a function from other class.
Of course.
Just do we
Of
need?
course. As long as you reference it. Right? You are referencing it in here. So this is roll. How can you know where is it coming from? It's coming a class or from an object of a class. No. So that whenever we need to call method in here, whenever we need to call method, we have to put the full name. Like if I call Shah, Mr. Shah, only one person. Where's Shah in here? How many people call Shah? Maybe there's 2 or 3. So if I need to call Somail Shah, I have to say the first name and last person. He will answer. Same thing in here. When I need to call function, what I have to do? I have to prepend the function name with class name. Where is it coming from? And that's what we are doing in here. So in here, die. What is die? Is an object of what? Of a die class. And what is role? Is a function or a method. Where? In the die class. So when I have to make sure I call the first name and the last name. Call it first name and last name. Right? We'll refresh that. Okay? So, I mean, a little bit confused, but very easy. And when you think about it, it's very easy when you read it. Okay? So in here, what I'm doing in here, I'm creating 2 classes. Okay? And I'm making the first class or the first object of the first class as one of the objects in the second class. Alright? So what's the game in here? What's the game in here? I have a die. I could play by itself, but now I have 5 dice. So I have to call it 5 times or 4 times according to our example. Right? So that's the game in here. Okay, that's the game. I don't have money, I'm broke, I'm not going to play a game. Alright? So the dice roller program. The dice roller program. Enter the number of dice to roll. 5. 5. So you roll, okay, you roll 1, 5, 1, 2, 6. Roll again, yes, it rolls again and again and again, right? Okay, so I have dice. So how many objects I have created in here? 5 objects of what? Of die. Okay, how many lists I have created? 1. And what is the content of the list? 5 objects of die. Alright? So let's take a look at the program. Okay. So what is the first thing I have to do? I have to import that file which has how many classes? 2 classes. There are 2 separate files. If I don't import it, you will not know about it. So what I did in here, from dice, which is supposed to be dice.python, import the class dice and the class die, all with a capital D, capital D. Then, this is the main function. This is the main function. So usually in the program, where we go first? We go to the end. What is the end? If this is the main, then call the main function. If I need to go to the main function, okay, that's the main function. So what is the first thing I did? Print the dice roller program. Where is this? Here. You see it in here?
Yeah.
All right. Then what happened? Print a blank line. You see it in here? Print, where is it? A blank line. Do you see it in here, the blank line? In here? You see it, right? Then I have an input. So get number of dice from user. So count, input, enter the number of dice to roll. So you enter whatever, it will be saved where? In the count. Alright? So what is the first thing I did in here? I created object of dice. And I called it dice. Little bit confusing. I mean, if I wrote this book or this example, I will give a different name. Right? So the dice in here, the dice, what we did in here, die, okay, this is a class, I created an object. So it's confusing. We could call it, for example, Somel. You could call it anything, it's an object. Right? Right? Object. So So I created an object. So now this die, where is the die? Which one I have created? This one. So with this, I have created the dies. What they called it there? Die. They call this is die. I called it Sumil. No problem. So far, I have created object of dies. It has a list. What is inside the list? Empty. Empty, right? The list is empty. Now what I have to do? To fill it. All right? So for I in range count. How much is the count? 5, right? That's what they wanted, 5, right? Count. So what I'm doing in here, I'm creating a small die. So at range from I, how much is I? 0 to 4, right? So now die equal die. What I did in here, I created a die. Then what I did, add a die. Add it where? To the dice. So what I did in here, I created the first die. And this is 0. Then I loop again, and I'm going to create a second one. 1, 2, 3, 4, because we asked for 4.
That part is confusing. Can you please explain again? Dice
Okay.
equals to capital dice.
Yeah, so in here, okay, die, look at the die. What is die? When I say dice like that, what is dice?
Class.
It's a class. When I execute dice like that, what am I creating? An object. Object, what is object? Is a place in the memory. A place of the memory, if I need to give it a name, I should give it a name, right? In the example here, what they called it?
Dice.
What I'm saying, I'm telling you, they are confusing us. They should give it, for example, Shah. Give it a name. It's a name, right? Give it any name, right? So we created a dice. Now dice, by default, what does it have?
How can you figure out we need to import from the dice of the die and dice?
The names are
Because
confusing.
there's two classes.
Yeah, but where is those classes? It's from dice?
They are from a file called dice. So there is a file called dice.python. So in here, where is it? Okay. All right, there's two files, right? Let's do it from here. Okay, there's two. All right, there is two files. The first file is dice, and the second file. So let's take a look at dice. Can we? Let's open it. In idle, take a look. So this is the dice. What's the name of the file? Can you read in here?
Small dice.
Dice.py, right? What does it have? Two classes. It has two classes, right? Class die and the class dice. All right. Now there is another file called dice roller. Let me open it. How can I bring the two classes to this room, to this file? There's two ways. There's two ways. The first way is to write the two classes just in the same file. Go in here and write them, the two classes in the same file. That's one way. And the other way to tell it, where is it? So where is it? It's in here. It's from dice, which is dice.python, import dice and die. If it's in different path, I have to put the path. If the file is saved in a different path, I have to put C colon the whole path. Clear?
Yep.
So it's a file. I have to include it. All right? Now this file will understand what are the two classes. It will go check in that file, the two classes. Clear? Okay. So the first thing, this is a program in here. What is the first thing will be executed? This is what it starts with a function. Does the program start executing from a function? No. It goes to where? It goes to the end. Where? If main equals main, then execute main. It calls the main. Now it goes to the main. So it prints the dice roller program, print an empty line. Then what does it do? Get number of dice from the user. So the enter, you ask the user, enter the number of dice. How many dice you need? So he entered how much? 5. In our example, they entered 5. You could enter 1. You could enter 2. You could enter whatever you want, right? All right? Then, what you're going to do, you're going to create the dice. You call it dice. They call it dice. They could call it anything. So, for example, I don't call it dice. I want to call it here, okay, sha. Let me call it small. Sha. Okay? So what I'm doing in here, I'm creating a dice object. A dice object. Then I have to fill it out. At the beginning, it has how many objects?
5.
At the beginning, it has 0. It has a list which has 0 items, right? Then I'm rotating, now looping from I, which is 0 to 5, okay? And I'm creating every time a die, a small die. I'm gonna call it I'm gonna give it a different name. I'm gonna call it, for example, Sue. That's what we're gonna call it, Sue. Okay? So I'm creating an object of die, I'm saving it in Sue. Then I have to add Sue to where? To the bigger. I'm gonna add it to the dice. So dice, I don't have dice, what did I call it?
Sure.
Sha. Sha. So that's the bigger. Sha is this one, this box. Okay, Sha. And this is this one, the small one, what I call it? Sue. Right? I call it Sue. Right? So what I'm doing in here, I'm adding Sue to the Sha. How many times? 5 times rotating. Why? Because the user told me I need 5 dice. 5 Sues. They're gonna be created where? Inside the list. So Sha, how many lists it has? 1 list. Inside the list, how many Sues? 5. Simple. Alright? While true, okay, dice. I don't have dice anymore. What I called it? Sha. Roll all. Print, roll all, end. So you get, okay, then 4 die. I don't call it die anymore. What did I call it? Sue. In dice, I don't have dice anymore. Is Sha. List. In the list, okay, print. I don't have die anymore. What do you call it? Sue. To the end, and then print. So I'm printing the values, okay? Then choice, input, roll, how many times you need to roll. Okay, you want to roll again? Yes. The choice, yes, by and all of that. So let's run it. File, save as, die roll 2, for example, version 2, and then run. Here you go. The dice roller program. Enter the number of dice you need to have. How many? About 10. Right? So randomly let's run 10 dice and give me these values. I run it again. Why? Okay, give me this value. Changed because it's of random. Again. Right? No. Object-oriented programming, folks. Right? That's what we'll be designing. When you have a bigger problem to design, You have to sit together with yourself. Together with yourself, all right? And plan it. So you have to know how many classes you're going to create, how they are derived. Okay, each class has many attributes. What are attributes of the class, and what functions you need to do in that class. And then after that, you're going to go to the main file, and from the main file, you're going to call everything. Okay, object-oriented programming. So people who took object-oriented programming before, they should know what I'm talking about. People did not take object-oriented programming before. I mean, I feel for them. Okay, I feel for them. They have to, work hard and try to understand. Okay, and you could come to my office. Those, how many again did not take object-oriented programming before? You know what's okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people? All right? 5. Don't be shy. You could raise 2 hands. All right? So you need to go over the material. If you took it or you heard your programming before? No? No? So if you have any questions, you come to my office. Let me repeat. Don't wait for long. You go, try to read, take an appointment with me, come to my office and explain it to you once, twice, 3 times. Okay? But you have to work very hard. Okay? All right. So this is just an example. I mean, just an example how can you use the object-oriented programming. All right?
Professor, screen.
So we already explained this code. Okay. Explain all of this. All right. So now the attributes we are talking about in this class so far, they were public. What does it mean public? What does it mean public attributes?
Can be accessed from anywhere.
Could be accessed from anywhere, right? To have more perfect programming, you have to protect your data, your variables, so you make them private. What does it mean private?
Only the programmer can access. I mean in the class cannot be.
Only methods from within the class can access them. So for example, okay, what are the parameters, the value in here? It was public. That means from anywhere, you could access and change this value. From the main function, from any function outside, you could change it. All right? But if you make it private, so you have to have a function inside the class to change it or alter it or access it. Okay? So how can you create a private element? Very simple. You put 2 underscore with 2 underscore before the name, it becomes a private. As simple as that. Okay, in terms of name, that's what you do. You put what? Underscore. And then this becomes a private attribute. Then in here you have, okay, public methods for getting and setting attributes and another. So how many methods you have in here? 3 methods. The role. Before I had only 1 method, which is role. Right? For this one in here, I have value and 1 method. So when I made it private, how I made it private, I put 2 underscores before. Now how can I access it? How can I change the value? How can I read the value? Through methods in the class. So I have to add 2 more methods. What are the 2 more methods? Get value and set value. All right. So what I did in here, I made the class more secure, the value more secure. How I made it more secure? By making it private. How did I make it private? I put underscore, 2 underscores before the name. Then it's private. In Java and C++, how can I make it private? I have to put the keyword private behind it. And here is simple, right? All right. And because of this, I have to add 2 functions. So now, if I need to read the value of the value, how can I do it? I have to use get value. If I need to change the value, I have to use set value. Set value. Okay? All right. So in here, let's take a look at this example. So you have the class die. You have the class die in here. So at the beginning, we said the value equals 1. I'm setting the value to be 1, right? And they have a role class that will allow to roll. Okay. So this is like a public attribute. It's not safe, it's not secure. Why? From anywhere by mistake in your code, okay, what you can do, you could change the value. So in here what you did, you created a die. We called it before, what we called it in here, Sue, right? Remember we called it Sue? Okay? And the die dot value 10, okay? And you change the value, which is, maybe you are not allowed to change it, or you're not allowed to do it, right? It's not protected. The idea in here, if you make it a public, you could change it from anywhere. From anywhere. You could change it from anywhere, right? So the solution, what? To protect it, I have to make it private. How can I make it private? I add 2 underscores. For that, I have to add 2 more functions. So I add 2 underscores before the name. For that, I have to add 2 functions. The first function, get value. So what does it get value? For example, get value self, return self plus value. And to set it, and here to roll it, it was before, and this is to get the value, and this is the initialization, to initialize it. So now, if I need to set the value for that, what I have to call, this will not work, because this is a direct access. The only way it works is by saying die get value. Right? So in here, for example, again, in here, if I need to read the value, for example, all I have to say, for example, XYZ, for example, equals, okay, die dot Sue, we called it Sue, dot value. So the value will go here. Now, after I made it like a private, I cannot do that. If I need to read it in XYZ, I have to say Sue dot get value through a function. Through a function. All right. If I need to change it if I need to change the value, so I could say Sue.value equals 10. Now I cannot do that. If I need to change the value, what I have to do? Sue set value to 10. All right? Do you see any difference in here? What's the difference between doing it like a direct assignment or through a function? Is there a big difference?
Yes.
What's the difference? What's the difference between this and this?
Secure, that's secure.
I know it's secure. I told you it's secure. They told you it's secure. But why is it secure? Why is it secure? Why is it more secure? Cannot access from
class or from another file.
unless you use this function. Okay, but it's already for anywhere you could use it.
You can change the state of the attributes of the object.
Good. Better answer.
If you
I
have,
know he knows it, but he's not explaining it.
if you have to use that same value in different class, then you can directly use it. But in previous case, but in this case, if you have to, means you can create more variable with same name in same project.
Okay. Actually, our example does not show how it's important because we have simple assignment. But remember, in the get value and the set value, what is get value and set value? A method. In a method, what you could do? A lot of things. So, for example, you could rules. You could put rules inside the set value, for example, that you say, for example, the maximum value should be 9 and the minimum value should be 3. You could put rules inside these functions that you control and protect your data. Right? So in here, in our example, is a very simple thing. We say, it's like, you know what it is when somebody asks, where is your ear? What do you tell them? If somebody asks, where is your ear? What do you say?
Right here.
Huh?
Right here.
Like this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But there's people who do like that. That's what we did in here.
Mm-hmm.
Where is your ear? It's here. That's my ear. All right? So with the get and set, what we said, my ear is here. It's a little bit longer. But our example here does not because it's simple code. But you know what we could inside? In that so for example, in here, when you look at, for example, here, let me clear this. How to clear this? Like this. My life is tough to me today. Are we here? So look at the get value. Value. What is the set value? Do you see the set value function? Set value here. Okay, look in here at the set value in here. So let's go in here. So look at the set value in here. What we did in here. So set value, if the value is less than 1 or greater than 6, raise exception error. So in here I'm protecting with the logic. With the logic, I could have in the function so much logic that I could protect my, the value, right? Otherwise, if it's simple, assigning this or this, it does not mean, but that's what I explain it. So now you have a logic, you have a function, and the function will give you rules how to set the value and how to read the value. Clear? Okay? It will give you like a control over all of that. So for example, if my rule says that the value, it cannot be bigger than 9, greater than 9. And if I do equals to 10, what will happen? It will take it. But if I use a private, when I make it as a private, and there's a function, and then when I do this like 10 in here, what the function will give me? Exception. Give me exception, error. Because I coded that. I coded that I don't need it to. You got it? So that's the private code, the private, all right. So for example, look in here what I did. This one in here. Set value -1. Is that allowed? Is that allowed? No. Why is it not allowed? Why is it not allowed? Because what I said in here, if the value less than 1, that means -1 or -2 or greater than 6, what you do? Raise exception. So this way I could control the variables I have, right? Also, there is another different way for having the private, called property. So I don't like to use property myself. I like the set, and okay, but you know, property is, I'm not sure if it's available in Java or C#, but basically for the set value, for the get value, you say property, you put add property, and for the set value, add property name that's setter. So for example, in here, okay, what you do in here, like for example, okay, for accessing, you put add property in top of the function, and you put add value in top of the setter on top of the function, and you could access it by the property. Okay. Anyways, you could try it out. So we'll go back to the dice example. So now we made the list as a private, and we made the value as private. How we know it's private? Because the 2 underscores. All right. So again, we have the list, we have the add die, and all of that. So the program could take a look at it. Same thing if we go to the other product, the product, we make the price as private. You could take a look. I added all the program for you in here, so you could just try them out. Yeah. Right. So anyways, so all right. So I was planning actually to finish more today, but I went so slow. I'm not sure, you know, if I was boring or, you know, people know stuff. I'm sure I was boring. People don't know the stuff. I'm sure you needed even to be a little bit slower. Anyways, what I needed from you, okay, to go home, and I put all the exercises and the codes for you in the PowerPoint. I needed to try them out, okay? And it's very important within 1 week for those who did not do object-oriented programming before to know how it works. And if you have confusion and you don't understand how to do it, you come to my office, okay? My office hours every Wednesday from 1 to 4 or by appointment. Okay, you could come for appointment. I'll be more than happy to explain it all for you. But you need to come and take an appointment after you make sure you read and you come with the specific questions. So the first thing when you talk to me, I will ask you a few questions to understand where are you. Okay, and then I'll be more than happy to explain it for you. So please don't wait longer, because we're going to continue on object-oriented programming. So we're going to talk about polyformism, we're going to talk about inheritance, how to create multiple classes. Next class it will be a little bit more involving. All right? Thank you so much.